Hey guys, coldbrew here. Welcome back to another video. I hope you're having a great Friday today. I thought I'd make a video today going over something that I think not many people realize that has happened into the game since Raid has started to add different sets of gear into the game. That's the theme of today's video, right? In Raid's history, right, we started with the dungeons and the campaign where you can actually go and farm items, right? You go in the campaign, you go in the dungeons, you can farm different items from each. And as we progress through, they kept on adding different sets, especially with the addition of the Forge into the game. Newer sets were added with the Swift Parry, Deflection, Resilience, and Perception. And then with each rotation of the Doom Tower, we would have 2 more sets added every time, with 3 rotations, giving us a total of 6 sets added as possible rewards, right? So we had actually more than that. We had 4 bosses at the beginning, and then they've added 2 new bosses and then another 2, so 8 in total. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 8 in total sets. And then they started adding the Forge Pass gear, which is Instinct, Bolster, Defiant, and Righteous. And they also added some different pieces of gear, such as the ones you get from the Hydra, the ones you get from the Clan Shop, and I believe, yeah, it was Clan Shop, Hydra, and that was pretty much it in terms of the gear that they've added to the game. But none of those pieces, we have 54 sets of gear, right? 54 sets in total at the moment, with 1,300 slots to equip gear, to store our gear that we can equip. We have 54 sets, which I consider insane. My biggest issue with all of this is not that we need more sets strictly, is that we need more sets of a specific nature, right? What they failed to do since they started adding sets is add a little bit of variety into what makes the game work differently depending on what gear you have equipped. What I mean by that is pieces of gear that apply effects on the attack that you do. For example, the biggest and easiest example I can give, it is the Toxic set, which I need to find here. The Toxic set, boom, what does it do? 75% chance to apply a 2.5% poison debuff. So if you guys don't remember, by the way, this used to be much lower. It used to be 50% to apply the 2.5, but they buffed it up to 75% because they thought, well, this set does not do all that much and players do not really use it. But with that recent change, not that recent, at least a year, they made it work much better. Really helps boost up your damage in dungeons, works with some specific champions to even solo dungeons. Like Chagor, I believe, really can solo Dragon with it. And it really helps add up a lot of damage for the clan boss. That's where I can think of the Toxic being used. Then we have the Stun set, which is obvious on why it's very good. It has the chance to apply a stun. We have sets such as the Sleep, which is very, very underutilized. I have 0 items from that set because honestly, nobody really uses it. Provoke set, same thing, although the Provoke has really grown in usefulness because of some uses in the arena, such as the Uko. You can use a Provoke instead of a Stun set, or use the Provoke set for something like the Hydra clan boss, all right? So all of these sets, they have this thing that is similar. They apply the effects on the attack, right? It's not something that happens when you get attacked, such as the Retaliation, the Avenging, or even, the Stone Skin set, which is basically a buff provided to you. The Instinct set is just well, it's not a buff really, but it's an effect that it has. We didn't have any set added since the beginning of Raid that has effects on your attack, which is what I want to see in the game. And I had some thoughts on what kind of effects we could have added with all of these different debuffs we have in the game currently, with all of these different champions that were added to bring in newer debuffs into the game, such as the Fear debuff. I thought maybe we could have had that in a set, right? The obvious would be making sets now that will be having the 5% of the poison instead of the 2.5, but that is, like a very easy thing to add. But maybe that would be considered overpowered, right? Which I can agree in some effect, but still it adds something to the game. If you make that set a little bit more difficult to acquire, then it would make more sense to be stronger than the Toxic set, which you can get from the Dragon. So just the first thought there, 5% poison debuff applied through the set. Maybe you can have that instead at a 50% chance instead of 75% chance. to justify how good that set would be. Also have maybe an HP burn set. That would be amazing because of all the HP burn champions we have in the game. Adding that into a set would bring in more variety of using AoE champions with that set to help out with the spider, do more damage, or to just help out with the Hydra. That would be great. But obviously it would devalue a little bit the value of HP burn champions. So maybe have that with a 1-turn HP burn debuff. I think that would be the ideal instead of the 2 turns, so that you can actually justify, okay, I got an HP burn champion, but would just the set be better? No. Well, the HP burn champion is so much better. The set would be a little bit okay, but obviously the HP burn champion would be ideal to use instead. So I still think we could have had that added to the game. One more set would be the freeze set. So currently we have the frost set, which applies at a 20% chance a freeze debuff on the attacker. So you need to get attacked for this to work, and that's why I've stopped gathering those pieces from the dragon. The only reason I have these 2 pieces are I think they got good rolls on them. Like yeah, this one's got like a double crit, this one's got a triple defense. I mean, I could definitely use it as an off piece for somebody. And the reason that I want to see more of these sets that can apply a freeze on attack instead of when you get attacked is because of how the Fire Knight is, the hard version of the Fire Knight is right now. A set that you can apply a freeze on your attacks would be amazing, because freeze not only stops enemies, but it also works for bosses such as the hard mode version of the Fire Knight. None of the bosses are affected by freeze. So that would be a pretty cool use for using the freeze debuff. Another one I've wrote down is Fear or True Fear. I think True Fear would be too overpowered, because we all know what Mashalt can do with his True Fear, where when he applies a True Fear on enemies, they have a 50-50 chance for them to lose not only their turn, but also the cooldown of the skill that they attempt to do. So having that in a set would be a little bit too strong. Maybe just the Fear, which is 50-50 chance for them to lose the turn but not lose the cooldown of the skill. That would be nice. Instead in a set, again, might be too overpowered if you have it at a 50% chance, but maybe if you had it, like, let's say at 25% chance for you to apply a Fear, that would be a nice addition to maybe some kind of synergy you would have with other Fear champions or True Fear champions. We don't have a set that can apply Leech, but we could have had that. We instead have the Lifesteal sets, which is different than the Leech. The Lifesteal set basically does what Leech does, but a little bit worse. If I remember correctly, the amount that you heal through Leech is not the same as the amount that you heal from the Lifesteal set. So there's many different ways that PLARIUM could have gone with these sets if they ever added them to the game. But I'm very curious as to why they've never bothered with adding sets that do apply effects on the hit. Do they think it's too overpowered? Do they think it's not needed? Well, I don't know. And another set that I can think of right now is the example of Uko. Uko is so strong because he has the way of removing buffs from a target. So a set which we could give to Uko that could, or any AoE champion which would remove buffs from targets at a chance, of course. And because sets wouldn't require accuracy, it would be an insane set to give to AoE damage dealers or just AoE supports maybe. Any kind of support could use that set instead and actually be useful in the sense of removing debuffs from the target. Of course, we have the problem of polymorph, and polymorph are affecting our champions when we remove buffs, but that is another discussion on its own. What I wanted to make out of this video was to give you guys the thought, and I want to see it in the comments before we close off the video on what you guys think of this idea of adding newer sets to the game. I know the inventory issue is a problem, but that is not for this discussion today. But I want to see more sets added to the game that can give some effects on attack. It's something that I think we need. We don't have any of these, honestly. Not even the newer ones. Everything, it's all about either something passive or providing something that we had already but protected. Like the bolster set is a protected shield set plus a little bit of a guardian set. We had the instinct, which is kind of a savage. We had the lethal, which is a better savage. So it's so weird that they never thought of adding different sets that apply effects on attack yet after so long, since the beginning of the game. I might be mistaken, but out of the 54 sets, there is none that apply an effect on your hit on the enemy. So I want to see it in the game. What do you guys think? Let me know down below with any of your, maybe thoughts on what kind of those sets could be added to the game. And maybe if somebody from PLARIUM sees it, or if this video gets a lot of traction, I can send it over to them. Maybe they can do something and move this along and maybe add another set in the future that can have that as an effect on your attack. Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. Subscribe. I'll go back to playing Diablo 4. I'm loving the launch, the early game access launch. I'm taking it on my own pace. I don't think I'll be doing content. I don't know yet, but I am enjoying that game. Thank you all. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.